We now meet the work of Alfred Schutz. Schutz developed, as I've said before, insights from Weber and from Husserl. The main focus in Schutz's work is on common sense knowledge. By that we mean our taken for granted knowledge about events in the world. Every day, all the time, we use common sense understandings. We get things done through such common sense activities. Schutz felt that these common sense understandings were structured. The structure is not immutable. It is related to the individual, but of course, such common sense understandings do not stand outside other sedimented interests. Class, race, gender might be some of the most obvious examples. And clearly, some sets of relevances will come into play more significantly at some point of time than others. Now, Schutz looks at the relevances which structure objects and then hones in on the ones that any of us find particularly interesting at any given time. We might see some as topical, friendly talk, conducting a staff interview, the sentencing an offender. They are common sense understandings. The people who are there know what they are doing by and large. There are rituals that are drawn upon. A meeting is usually conducted in a certain way. If it is chaired, the chair has a particular set of roles, particular set of activities. We might say afterwards that was a good, effective meeting, or that was ineffective. But we bring common sense understandings to bear. Of course, we reach situations at times which defy common sense. The disaster is exactly that sort of setting. It is one which lies, by and large, outside our expectations and experience. Clearly, there are people who have professional roles within disasters, disaster managers on the one hand, but also people, for instance, in nursing, in medicine, the priesthood, all have distinct roles which come into play during a number of disasters, whether it be the disaster at the individual level or at a broader level with loss of life. And what we do for Schutz is create typifications. We understand how events are to take place. We don't have to think about things that we do. You can, as it were, be doing more than one thing at once, because one of the things that you're doing you don't particularly have to think about. So we use common sense knowledge, but that common sense knowledge can be called into question. It's not knowledge which is inchoate. For Schutz, it's both rational and moral. It's rational because it follows a commonly accepted logic. This is how you go about this particular activity. It's moral in the sense that it's right, in that we know how it's done well. We know what a well-chaired meeting is like. We know what a well-conducted interview might be like. And so what we are doing is, in our life world, is addressing the common sense, everyday experiences of people, how they constitute the life world, how people are orientated towards it, and how they not only test it out, but are tested within it. This life world is simply the whole sphere of everyday experience, where we pursue our interests and affairs. So Schutz takes from Weber the notion of interests Some interests are ones which structure our lives strongly at one time, and other interests may come into play. But Schutz, unlike Husserl, recognizes that there are dominant factors which can have significant effects, and an individual will find themselves in what Schutz called, and I quote, a biographically determined situation. No two people can experience the same situation in the same way. We are, to some extent, prisoners of our biography, but of course we can escape from biography. And for Schutz, the means by which the individual orientates himself in this life world is through the stock of knowledge that we have at hand. It's that which we draw upon. So typification, how we typify the world, the stock of knowledge that we have, are crucially important here. And another category that Schutz uses is that of reciprocity of perspectives. Do we and someone else, does the interviewer and the interviewee see the world in the same way? No, in the sense that no two people can see the world in the same way. But what is it that they do share? What can be brought to bear so that people can share perspectives and move to see things in ways which provide a working model for how to go about events and activities in the world. So Schutz departs from Husserl in that it is no longer a description of the world, it is an interpretation of the world. And interpretations can, of course, be questioned, they can be reviewed and revisited. I shall finish the work on Schutz by looking particularly at what he had to say in his important essay on the stranger.